Hey there, I'm Sean LaRue with Neo Home Loans, and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Podcast. I'm having a great day, and I hope you are too. Today, I'm joined with expert and local Coachella Valley pro Stephen Powell, and he's going to shed some light on a couple of different topics, including working with a professional. We're going to go over some market stats, and he's just going to shed some light, just some goodness, some deep stuff. Stephen, how you doing today, buddy?
Don, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. I want to pretend we have a room full of people and just hide everybody watching this. It's nice
I
to.
love that.
I'm imagining that I'm seeing your smiling faces, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here. You and I have been friends for over 15 years. I can
Thanks for
remember when
admitting
we
that.
let me say we're still friends after 15 years.
It's it's a recorded video now, so you can never backtrack on that.
It's officially official. I just want to tell you and everybody just how blessed I am to have you and your family in my life.
Thank you.
I had no idea that a simple lunch at Las Casuelas would would blossom into such a meaningful friendship and brotherhood. We typically will have lunch or breakfast or coffee once a month, and I'm just so happy that you're able to come on and spread some of that light and goodness that I get from you. And you know, you say some heavy stuff, and I don't know if you mean to say it all the time. Maybe you do, but um, just interacting with you is a blessing. And I guess I could go on about this for 5 minutes, but thank you so much for being here and a part of my life.
Thank you.
I know you're going to drop some words of wisdom for everybody today.
I don't know if I can live up to that kind of pressure, but I will. I'll say to all of the loan officers that are striving to be loan officers, let this be a lesson to you about the power of tacos. Sean
Yeah,
actually bought lunch that day. So 2007, we had lunch, and now here we are. Uh, all these years later, I consider to be a brother, family. I consider your family my family. So it's truly an honor. I'm so glad that we got together all those years ago. So LOs, take note, tacos.
the power of tacos, man. I love that. That's a great great note. Tacos can get you a long way, especially in the stomach of a realtor. That's amazing. So what's going on? What do you got going on in today's market? What were you up to today?
Well, it is a really interesting market. And the consensus from having conversations with other brokers and agents that have been, uh, have some tenure and some distance under the soles is that what we're seeing is the transactions that are going on have to go on. These are people that are being forced. Life is forcing them in some capacity. A life change, a work change, a divorce, a death. These are, they didn't want to, but they have to, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So it's kind of a mix of the desert is a very unique environment because you have micro markets. We have all these communities, and each one, you can get this overall stat, but each one has its own life going on. And I recently was with some sellers, and uh, it's a health issue forcing them to sell, and they're competing against 40 other listings in
Yeah.
that community because for whatever reason, the change in HOA or whatever's going on is forcing everybody wants out of that community, and so you're seeing that happen in different areas. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you have to not just put the home on the market, but you got to have a strategy. You got to have somebody that can navigate because essentially when we're talking about going on the market, I mean we're going on a journey. We hope that we're right. It's a guessing game as far as pricing because we're looking at data. We're trying to interpret that data as best we can, but we just don't know is that price that we agreed to place it in the MLS, is that something that a buyer is going to say yes to, or is it going to sit? And so it's really important to have an overall game plan strategy of what do I do if we go on the market, do I want to sit there? Can I afford to sit there for 6 months and have nothing happen? And that's a question that both parties have to answer. It costs a lot of money to market a house. You know that, right?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
top of for a seller could be spending thousands a month in holding costs and HOA fees and or facing where they might not be able to pay the HOA anymore. And now they're faced with potential foreclosure where the homeowners
Penalties.
associations come after them.
Yeah, loss of property. Well, that's really interesting is that, yeah, the inventory today are the people that are forced into a position, either health reasons, divorce, death, marriage. We're putting families coming together, families separating. I spoke to a client earlier and it was a divorce situation. They might do some gift of equity to a family member to have them buy them out. You know, Parents are moving on, trying to figure that out. I'm working on another one. We've got a pre-approval coming together. Just like you said, at what price are we coming on the market? This is a 1,200,000 property. Sounds like the sellers are willing to take an offer of about 1,000,000, which tells me there's something going on with the family. It's not a fire sale situation necessarily, but maybe the carrying costs are too high, life circumstances, they don't want to keep waiting. I think they've been on the market 60 days or so, and they're probably not getting a lot of activity because you're in the super high end market. We're in a post settlement era. Now it's business as the new normal. And we've also got, I don't know about you, but my phone's lighting up. I had a great weekend, lots of new clients with the Fed bringing down rates. Today's Monday, the 23rd of September. I think on Wednesday, we heard the Fed reduced interest rates by 0.5% on the Fed funds rates. I think we're starting to see, buyer confidence come back. It's exactly what we've been talking about for a while. So
Yeah, and I think we'll see that probably. We kind of, if you look back at earlier in the year when you had that just slight adjustment, you had that buyer confidence. You had a spurt of about 60 days where it just seemed like, oh, we were back on track. Things were going to get back to normal again. Then the rates bumped and it stalled everything out again. So I think that there's a really good window. The timing of it is really good, being that we're coming into quote unquote season here in the desert, where the temperatures are cooling down. So to kind of have this line up now, this is really good news for a lot of people. So if you've been thinking about, hey, should I sell? Yes, right now you should take advantage of the fact rates changed and we're kicking into season. Get your home on the market now so that you have good exposure prior to the holidays.
yeah, temperatures outside. It's really nice sitting on the patio again. Kids are back in school, people are getting back in the routine. I always seem to think it's not necessarily just Labor Day. It's like middle of September, everybody kind of gets back in the groove. And I was thinking about that this morning. It's like 3rd of September. You're like, no S sure. It's the same kind of thing. But I think this year with the seasonality, but also the election, rates, all these different kinds of factors are all coming together. And we may not see it in the market stats for closing in September, but definitely we'll see it, in late October, November, December, and then, January is a little bit of a lull, but for those of you that stay working, you could have great December and Januaries as well. Kind of having said that, with the settlement and some different things, it's important to work with a professional. You and I have been doing this almost 20 years, at least a solid 15. I was faking it for 2 or 3 years. I've been doing this since 2005, 2006. And I don't know about real estate agent headcount or what's going on in your brokerage. Maybe shed some light on that. But I know the number of licensed loan originators has dropped by about 50%. I think that's really great news for me. A lot of the part-time people aren't picking up all the refis. Everybody's got a family member in the business. Working with a professional that's up on the guidelines, up on how to do things. We see a lot of repetition on that. I see it all as a good opportunity, and since I don't know how to do anything else, I'll keep doing loans. But what are you seeing out there as far as working with a professional or those number of agents that are out there?
That's a great question. 2005 when I first got licensed, I'll be honest, I wouldn't hire me. I was so bad. Looking back, I would hope that somebody would hire me, but to be honest with you, when you're coming straight out of license school and you're just getting trained, now there's better training now than there was back then. There's mentorship now that they didn't have before. There's lots of classes. You can get to a point of competency much faster than when we started. And so, but that being said, every the Association of Realtors has different paths you can go as a realtor, but all paths lead to the CRS, the Certified Residential Specialist. It's the highest credential that you can get. And I think that every agent should set their sight on achieving that goal. There's only 33,000 out of the million realtors nationwide that have that designation. And so it really is this, I hate to use the phrase cream of the crop, but that's essentially what it is. And so everyone should strive. And I only want to bring it up. I'm not doing it to be braggadocious. I'm bringing it up because I was faced with, I wanted to be a better agent. Part of being a better agent is doing SWOT research, looking what's going on in the market, looking what other people are doing, and refining your craft. This is a practice, right? So thankfully, you and I, we're still here. We're still full time. We didn't have to quit because we've been practicing. We've been refining our art and looking at, okay, this worked, this didn't work. What can I do better? Well, I like what they're doing. I'm going to incorporate that into what I'm doing. And so we've constantly evolved. And so that's why it's so important to work with not just the quote unquote professional, but a professional that has a track record of success like yourself and myself. It has the credentials to back it up as well. So you have the experience, the credential, and the track record. It's a winning combination. Does that mean it's going to be perfect? No, because every single transaction is unique. There's not one that has been alike, and there's a myriad of things that can happen during the transaction. And that's where experience comes in, where you can be, take a step back and see the 40,000 foot view and not act like the house is on fire and run around and put everybody in a panic because it gets stressful, because it can, right? But the more experience you have, the more equipped you are, not only to handle that for yourself, but to help your client handle that, because they have not been through that as much as you.
Right.
They may have only done it once. To them, everything is burning down. The sky is falling.
Yeah.
It is urgent, right? So you have to be able to allow them to tether to you, so that they know that, hey, everything's okay. We've got this under control. This happens.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, take a look around. The best thing to do is look at another agent that you admire, and that if you like what they have, you like the lifestyle they have, the car they're driving, then you need to start doing what they do. And that's one of the reasons why I have the credentials and I have what I have. Is I was looking around going, hey, I'm a broke agent. I'm not doing any business. I want to be one of those top producing agents. What do I need to do? And so I was open to learn and go do that. And you were too, right? That's why
Yeah.
there's trophies, and behind you, and a huge success record of all these years.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I like about this industry is that everything's a bit of a puzzle. You said there's no two deals alike. And when our clients are talking to their friends, family members, coworkers, everybody has a story, but your story is unique compared to theirs, and there's no, you know, every property out there has its own concerns and wear and tear, and that's why we do inspections, and we do the best we can with our process and explaining everything to everybody. This is generally what to expect. But yeah, every situation's a little bit different. Most of them are going to go super smooth, and in some cases, you have inspection or appraisal concerns, but
Yeah.
we plan for the optimal outcome on that.
So I had this client, and it's funny. I thought I did a really good job. Like I was, expecting that this client was going to be
A
super
raving
stoked.
fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
raving fan. And they told me my communication could have been better. And it really shocked me because I'm thinking, when I answered all your phone calls, all your texts, all your emails, handled the transfer, you never waited more than an hour for me to get back to you. I'm like, where's the disconnect? How do you think that? And so I asked them, because I want to get better at what I do, right? So I asked them, I go,
Yeah.
where could I have got, what could I have done better? And they said something that was very interesting to me. And it made me think about the process in its entirety. And so now when I'm with someone, I explain this process up front, just to kind of set the tone or the expectation, if you will. But they basically said, we felt like we didn't know what was going on. Like we didn't hear from anybody for like a week. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And so I was really kind of thinking about it. And so now I explain the process that a real estate transaction is like a soccer game. Okay. If you don't have the ball, it doesn't seem like a whole lot's going on for you, especially if it's on the other end of the field and you're just back waiting. And at some point in time, the ball's going to get passed to you. And then you're going to have some stuff to do. And then you're going to kick it to someone else. And then you've got nothing to do again. And that's where these gaps, it's this perception of, hey, nothing's going on. But the reality, there's a lot going on. You just can't see it because another person on the team has the ball. The loan officer's got the ball. He's working with underwriting. He's putting stuff together. Then he passes it off to the agent. Hey, I need this. I need you to do this. And then they pass it off to the appraiser and they pass it off to the inspector. And it's just going back and forth all over the field. And all while the seller is sitting there going, nothing's going on until escrow calls them and say, hey, we need to send the notary over to you. You got to sign docs. And then it's their
Right.
turn. But
Right.
you have that there's so many intermittent gaps in that 30 days that it can feel like, hey, no one's talking to me. I don't know what's happening. So I like to do two things now. I like to have that conversation, and then I like to give them a checklist that it's basically like an escrow map. And I say, you're here. You just signed the listing agreement. You're here. As soon as we get an offer, you're going to be right here. And then you can just follow along and you're going to know exactly where you are so that you don't think that you're being left out. Just know you might not hear from anybody, but if you have any questions, you can always call and
Yeah.
I'll answer the phone. So
Yeah.
that's
And
experience.
you know what I got out of that is that you had such a smooth transaction that they weren't dealing with a bunch of headaches or a non-qualified buyer. You're not dealing with a bunch of repairs. You just had great people. It was all handled and they weren't bothered. And for me, it brings up like it doesn't matter how awesome it is. There's always going to be something that we could have done better.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. There's always something going on, and I'm obviously primarily on the buyer side. So they have the ball most of the time until closing. The question's always, where are the docs? Where are the docs? Where are the docs? And it's like, hey, you know, where's our request for repairs? Where are we at on that? I've had the appraisal back. We have no repair requests on that for a while. You know, what's going on? And so I know that there's multiple days that it takes for the buyers to decide what they want and need. They need to sleep on it, you know, and then it goes over to the agents, and then it might take a day for the agent to communicate that to the seller, and then the seller, you know, needs to sleep on it for 2 days. So all of a sudden we're at 7 days to discuss, you know, a $50 repair that really shouldn't be a big deal. It's not always $50. It's not always a big deal, but you kind of get the idea that, you know, there are a lot of people involved. Anytime you get your escrow paperwork, get it turned, get it burned, fill out that vesting, get your insurance. Like the faster you get the stuff in, the faster everything can be done. But as a buyer or seller, everything's, you know, gonna sit on your shoulders if everybody else, you know, if you've got the ball, you need to pass it off so it's not on your plate. So that's a really great point. And I like that you said that you thought you did a really great job and that the seller didn't hear from you for a week and they're like, what the heck? And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it should be if we've got everything handled and there's no problems. Like, just focus on packing, just get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
You
think
know,
that's a great point.
and I just want to give a pro tip. This is how to stay organized and how to stay sane when you have multiple files that you're working with, right? Because emails, hundreds of them a day, right? So
Yep.
here's a pro tip. I used to, in my younger days, I get an email and 4 or 5 people are copied on that email, but it's not specifically addressed to me, but somebody is addressing a problem. In my younger days, I wanted to solve it and just jump on it and take care of it, and I'd respond to that email. Well, in my older wise days, now I pause for about 5 minutes,
Is that for
and
me? Yeah.
it's incredible how it miraculously takes care of itself. Now, if they come back a second time and they name me by name, obviously I jump in there, but you just don't have to be the first one to reply to those emails. And it's so incredible how much more you get done, how much more efficient things are, and how much less stress you have in your life.
I love the conversation I had with my team lately, which was, hey, can we just assume I'm saying thank you? I don't have to say thank you to every email. And most of it's just so I can see that we're making progress. And so, yeah, as that experience continues and I'm getting wiser in my old age, I'm with you on that. It's like sometimes just wait a day till you respond and see if that was actually addressed to me, or just for transparency that it's actually being worked on. And I'm finding more and more, even my team just wants me to stay in my lane and go get more business, take more meetings, do more marketing, and they got it. And so I love that you said that, because it's not always about who's the quickest to respond. It's maybe the person who's getting it done and should respond is actually finding the solution and not responding because they're working on it until they have the solution. I love that. Yeah, take 5 minutes, especially if you're getting wound up like I used to. Um, you know, everything can and will be used against you in a court of law,
Oh,
especially in writing.
some of the emails that come through, you think that the wheels are starting to wobble off the car and they're going to go flying off. It's
I'm
like,
wondering if some people have had an aneurysm. Did the vein pop out of their forehead when they wrote that? I'm like, I know you're not this mad at me, but bless you. I hope you have a better day. Anyway, what do you see out there in the market? What's going on in La Quinta?
well, La
In La
Quinta's done
Quinta,
pretty well.
call me La Quinta.
La Quinta, por favor, the Czech, La Quinta. The gem is it? No, India's the gem of the desert, or La Quinta's the gem. Who's the gem? Is it La Quinta or is it India? I don't remember anymore. Been out too long.
I don't know.
I think it's La Quinta. I think
I
it's the
think it's
gem
La
of the desert.
Quinta. Yeah.
There are great things overall in the valley, but the median home price in La Quinta has skyrocketed. It's hit about 752, which is pretty high. It's a little bit down from the previous year, but overall it's a 6% year over year increase. So, you can't get mad at that. Fast tracking for sales. Average days on market for La Quinta is sitting about 77 days. So again, it's, what are your goals? Really, and that's the primary question that I'll ask a seller is not what do you want to sell it for? It's how soon do you need to move? Because if you telling me, hey, I gotta leave, I need to move in 60 days, well then you can't be on the market for 77 days. We need a different strategy, right? We need a different discussion. So what I'm finding overall is that you have the algorithms that most people go on. They look at Zillow, they look at Redfin, they look at Realtor.com, and then they're about 20% off right now as far as being accurate. So meaning that they're over quoting, but that doesn't even account for market, right? So you really have to, if you're looking at comps that closed within the last 6 months, you got to be willing to be on the left side of the average to be aggressive in your pricing, right? And if you're getting real close to, let's say, I'm a hypothetical, you want 509,000 for your house, you're too close to the threshold where people search. Go to 499. You're going to sit
Yeah,
there
just
and
go there.
yeah,
Just do it.
because you're
Price
going
it
to miss
right, get a bid up, right?
You're
Like,
yeah, because you're going to miss such a big buyer pool by trying to stay on the fringe because nobody's searching there. And so think about it, Mr. Seller. You yourself go online and you put in you search for prices from this to this. Right. So if somebody's only searching to 500,000, they don't even see your house. So that's really an essential thing to think about is how soon do I need to move? What does it mean for me?
well, and in a post-settlement era, with closing cost concessions, I heard a stat recently that there's about $10,000 in buyer concessions. The IPC, interested party concessions, um, for buyer agent compensation is separate. So if you price it at 499, let's say you make the buyer's making an offer at 515 or 520, we're still within that 5% range over market. We've got bid ups. It's all about structuring your offer, helping with either a temporary or permanent buy down, covering closing costs, making sure the agent is getting their compensation. So get the eyeballs, price it at 499, get under that threshold. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, what are you holding out for 509? Like it doesn't even matter, because when it's all said and done, like we're gonna all figure out our net based on whatever the buyer's gonna offer anyway. Why put it at 509?
yeah, and this year has been such an incredible. I have had personally in my own transactions, I've had nearly as many cancellations as I've had sales.
I
And I'm,
think that has to do with where the market's at. I mean,
yeah,
easy come, easy go. You know, when one falls out, two come together.
the reason I'm saying is that I'm not the only one, right? But the sellers think, oh my God, I had this, it fell out. And I have to tell
Sky's
them, look,
falling.
you're not the only
Yeah.
one, right? I have a transaction going on. It's been in escrow for its fourth time. And on this last time, the seller, and again, going back to this pricing structure, there were two offers that came in, and one wanted 10,000 back in credit. The nets were really, really close. The one that netted him less was actually a stronger, better offer, but he didn't want to go with it. He's like, no, I really want that 10. I'm like, look, if it doesn't close, there's nothing. Like nothing. You've been in the this is your fourth time trying to sell this, right? If zero of zero is zero, right?
Fourth time's the charm. Let's go.
Like fourth time's the
Let's
charm.
accept the strongest offer, right?
So yeah, but everyone is in that position, and that's another thing to consider. It's not over till it's over, right? So do what you got to do. You always want to, if you want it to rain, you need your umbrella. You always have to have a measure of faith and action. You always got to keep moving forward. Yet, um, it's not over till it's over in this market. And you've seen it. You've seen qualified buyers that, hey, they were qualified today, and all of a sudden the bank pulled the product, and they're not getting the
Yeah.
loan tomorrow. And just you can't foresee that stuff, right? So just know that in this journey as a seller or buyer, you're not alone. I mean, we're in it with you. We're seeing it. It's not isolated just to you.
So I heard you say two things. One is properties fall out, and sometimes you gotta work with a few different buyers. The other thing was maybe the highest net isn't the strongest offer, but if it comes with a pre-approval letter from Sean LaRue, it'll close.
Yeah, that's important. Sometimes
And maybe you'll get a higher net.
yeah, I see these letters come through, and I've never heard of these fly by night loan brokerages. So it's hit or miss. You wonder, well, okay, it almost looks like you made the letter and sent it to me. It's like, how do I know it's real? But that's
AI,
why it's
please generate a
yeah,
pre-approval later. Yeah, you know what I've been noticing lately? How short my NMLS license is compared to some of those I've been seeing out there. Yeah, it's just interesting. You really got to have a lot of experience, and we've seen some of the hardest deals in the market since 2008. I mean, in 2008, at least we had like short sales and buy-in bails. Rates were a lot higher, but people were jumping ship because of equity. And right now, everybody's sitting tight because they've got such a low payment compared to what it would cost them if they move and get a different loan. I think with interest rates coming down, we're going to see better balance of supply and demand because more sellers are going to come on the market, more buyers are going to pull the trigger. We're not going to delay our lives anymore. And I mean, this is kind of what I've been talking about for the last year is sellers are going to sell when they need to sell and move on with their lives, but as interest rates come down to about 6 and into the 5s, sellers are going to say, okay, it's time. Maybe we have some debt, and payment wise, it's all going to end up being the same in the wash, and it's time to move it.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I've had a lot of coffee today. I'm excited for the market, and maybe it's just the chill in the air, but it's a good time.
I'm I hate to say that I'm thankful that so many are leaving the industry, but I always answered my phone anyway. I was always thankful that real estate agents are notorious for not answering the phone, which I just don't understand that. If you want to be in business, answer your phone. So,
Yeah,
call me 760-861-3735 for all your real estate needs. I had
there
to
you
get
go.
that plug in there. The interesting thing that I'm seeing on the side, because that in real estate, banks have hired me to do broker price opinions and to do property inspections, and banks use those for a myriad of reasons for their assets. Whether they want to examine their portfolios, whether they're considering a refi, whether they're going to give a HELOC, whether they're going to consider foreclosing, or whether they're going to consider selling that asset off to another bank. There's a plethora of reasons. So, for one, I've seen an uptick in requests for property inspections, not broker price opinions. So the property inspections concerns me a little bit because those are equity lines of credit. So we're getting to the place in the economy that sellers, which up to this point, over 56% of sellers have the majority of the equity in their home. Most are outright or pretty close to being paid off. So now we're seeing an uptick in refinance where some are consolidating debt, paying off debt. Some are doing that, take an opportunity to do an improvement that they haven't been able to do, that it's time to do some repairs because they're not moving on or they don't plan on moving on. But so the long-term effect of that, it's hard to say. We're probably not going to see the long-term effect of that for a couple of years based on the interest rate they pulled out and, whether or not they can continue their employment and maintaining those payments. But I'm definitely seeing a lot more of that. And I'm sure as one who does refis, you're seeing a lot of those requests too.
Seeing a lot of different requests for a lot of different reasons. I'm closing a home equity line tomorrow, $150,000 line. They decided they wanted to improve their property. And they're not quite ready to, blend the rates together because they're taking out a bunch of cash to do a rehab project. They decided they didn't want to move back to their old neighborhood. They're pretty happy with the house. They just need to make some changes, and we're going to consolidate a bunch of debt. They could have saved a little bit more if they wanted to pay off the car, but that doesn't always make sense. And at some point, when rates are going to go down a little bit more, it's going to make sense to combine the first and second loans because at the end of the day, cash flow is king and rates don't ultimately matter. If you can save $500 a month, you can save $500 a month. It is what it is. But because of last week's announcement, their interest rate, because it's a home equity line based on prime, it's a variable rate, and they're stoked because they're going in, their first payment's going to be 0.5% less now than they thought it was going to be. And so we were celebrating that last week. I'm like, look, aren't you glad you didn't take the fixed rate? It would have been an initial lower rate, but fixed payments, they might use all the cash, they might not, they don't really know. But having that flexibility is amazing. And so, yeah, if you're interested in debt consolidation or improving your cash flow or getting cash out for rehab, let's say maybe you have equity that's untapped and you want to buy an investment property. We're seeing a lot of that. Home equity line draws for down payments on investment properties. That's what we do, all different kinds of situations for finance. La Quinta is the gem of the desert, by the way.
I was right.
Absolutely. You are right. And what I also heard you say earlier is that there's been a 6% year over year appreciation in La Quinta, which indicates to me that this is not a down market. And if you bought last year at whatever rate you could get or cash, you'd still be in a better spot today, which is sure what we'll be saying next year as well. So
Yeah. And the good gauge on that too is always looking at where the days of the market are for the community. When it starts going 99 days and higher, then you've got an issue. Looking to staying under that 90-day threshold, which is good. So that means that there are more buyers than there are sellers.
it's
However, I do
still a
caution.
healthy market. I mean,
Yeah,
between 3 and 4 months is healthy.
I do caution saying that because it always does come. Let's talk about the three things that sell a house. There are only three things. It's not rocket science beyond this. The location of your house, the condition of your house, and the price of your house. That's it. Okay. So we can't pick that house up and move it. We could, wouldn't be worth doing. But so location. If you're on a back wall, you're noisy, you're in a place that you yourself don't want the realtor to show in photos, you have a location problem, right? Condition.
You can
When you
fix
go
that.
online and you
It's not.
look at the numbers, those algorithms assume that you have what's called the full economic life of your home intact. Economic life of your home is defined by having upgraded everything upgraded within a 15-year period. If, for instance, you have not upgraded your bathrooms and your kitchens, even though you kept them in really good condition and they're wonderful, they're no longer at the peak of their economic life. So that's why there's a range of prices. So the new buyer is going to need to come in. If you're not going to remodel it, they're going to need to remodel that. So that's really important to remember. So if location and condition are a problem, the only thing that can fix it at that point is the price. Right? There's no piece of real estate that the right price can't fix. That's been true now and forever. So ultimately, as long as you have, when I go in and I won't name names, I just listed a property and I wasn't sure which photo was my favorite of the previous listing. And I couldn't believe what I saw. It was the agent in the mirror holding the phone in an infinity scene. There were 1,000 of her holding the phone. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was my favorite or just the view of the shower drain in the photos. I mean, that's all it was. It was the floor of the shower. So I couldn't decide. So I said to the seller, I go, look, it could be, we don't know if it's your price yet. The marketing wasn't good. Let's fix the marketing. Then we'll be able to determine if it's location, condition, and price, and then we can make an appropriate adjustment once we fix that. I go, but no one was going to buy your house based on the shower drain. It wasn't,
It wasn't selling. Yeah, everything sells at the right price.
yeah,
Absolutely. And marketing's key. And, if you have the opportunity, fix up the condition of the property, rehab it to the best of your ability with the money that you have, and make it easy for first-time buyers or a buyer to not have to put a bunch of money in themselves. Those types of properties always sell a little bit faster. I would say with the caveat of, buyer preferences and doing a full rehab, depending on their liking. If you're trying to get out of it, move on. Maybe it's a great opportunity to have somebody take on a project or a flip or something like that. So every property has its buyer.
yeah. And then, of course, to get ready to sell, it's the DDQ: deep clean, declutter, Q-tip clean. You do
There you
that,
go.
and it's ready to go. So it's pretty straightforward.
So as we wrap this up a little bit, Stephen, I always like to ask this question. If you could put anything on a billboard for everybody to see, what would you put on your billboard for everybody to see?
Hi, I love you very much.
Uh, I love that. I love that. Simple, easy for everybody.
For
That's
everybody.
amazing. Well, I'm giving you a big hug, buddy. I love you.
I love
Hope
you
you have
too.
a great day.
You
Was
too.
there
Thanks for
anything you wanted to add? Why don't you drop that phone number again?
861-3735. You can call me and text me. If I don't answer, I return calls promptly. The only time I don't answer my phone is I'm with a client, or you tried to call me on a Sunday morning. I sleep in, but I do return calls late Sunday.
That's awesome. If you're still watching this, which we hope you are, all the info will be in the details below. If this is on YouTube, you can
Oh, and
always
if I made it this far,
comment
we weren't
and
we weren't
subscribe.
boring.
I mean,
I
fortunately,
had
I
some.
get to watch this like 3 times as I edit it. I get to have this conversation with us like 4 times, so I'll know it inside and out. But
Be
yeah,
sure to Photoshop me a little bit, take some wrinkles off, and post.
well, why don't you stay on after we stop this? It doesn't look like it's uploading right now, but you're awesome. Thank you so much, and